G'day. In 2026, I'll spend more than 220 days away from home, visit more than 22 different countries, take 60 plus flights, and sleep in more than 38 different beds. So here's the truth about what it takes to work in Formula One and how I manage the logistics. Oh, and by the way, if you're not already subscribed, and that'll be about 50% of you, could you please hit the subscribe button? As an F1 photographer, planning my travel is a huge exercise. It started the moment the 2026 calendar was released in June last year. This year there are 24 races in 21 different countries and I attend all of them, plus pre-season testing, which kicks off in Bahrain in early February and doesn't end until the last race in Abu Dhabi the first week of December. But there is a 3.5-week summer break mid-year. This year there are 6 standalone races, 6 double headers and 2 triple headers. And as a freelancer, I pay for everything: hotels, flights, cars, the lot. But in order to shoot Formula One, you need to be accredited, and that is done by the FIA. Thankfully, there's no cost for a media pass that allows me to shoot. And my first season, back in 2017, I had to apply for every race. I did, and I was approved for all of the races, so that automatically meant that I got a permanent pass, and as long as I do at least 14 races in a season, I earn the right to a permanent pass the following year. A permanent pass means that I don't have to tell the FIA which races I'm going to. I just roll up at the track with this around my neck and it gets me into every race. It also gets me onto the grid before the start of each race. And the media pass also gets you a desk in the media centre, catering for the 4 days, and a car parking pass, which is invaluable. Now, at this point, I need to say thank you to Holofly for sponsoring this video. Traveling to every F1 race around the world is a lot easier when I can stay connected, and my Holofly eSIM has made it simple. No hunting for Wi-Fi and no lining up to buy a local SIM. I land, switch my phone on, and I'm online instantly. Holofly covers over 200 destinations worldwide with unlimited data, and it only takes a minute to set up. Before you fly, head to the Holofly website or app, choose how long you need, anywhere from 1 to 90 days, and after you purchase, you'll get your QR code straight away. Install it on your home Wi-Fi, then just switch it on when you land. Done. No surprise charges, no messing around. You can navigate, post content, communicate, and stay connected without thinking twice. Grab your Holofly eSIM using the link in the description and use my code KimElman for a special discount. Let's talk about my planning for the year. Wherever possible, I'll book refundable, that's flights and hotels. Why? Well, sometimes I change my plans. Sometimes hotel prices drop closer to a race, although it's rare, but in those instances I can cancel at the higher rate and rebook at the lower rate. But of course with F1, every city we go to is charging peak rates because the demand is high, and this year even higher because you've got an extra team gobbling up more of those hotel rooms, taking more of those flights. For back-to-back races, I fly typically on a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday morning. Often I'll do a video about the city I travel to on a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday morning, and Wednesday afternoon will normally see me at the track settling into the media centre. For races where I travel from Australia, normally I'll arrive on a Wednesday prior to the Thursday media day. Although some events like the US, where it's a long trip and a huge time zone difference, I'll arrive on the Tuesday. And living 90 minutes north of Perth in Western Australia means that I have the longest journeys of just about everyone in F1. I certainly wish I could come home after every race, but it's just not possible. How does my family cope? Well, my wife is incredibly tolerant. She'll also come to 4 or 5 races this year. I travel with my youngest son Jace for 16 or so races, and the older son Tyler, well, I get to see him the least. So let's start with flights, and to clarify, I'm not employed by F1 or any team for that matter. I'm a freelancer, so all of the costs involved here come out of my own pocket. In 2025, I was in the air for more than 14 days. On top of that, there's another 4 days in the actual airports. So there are plenty of opportunities for things to go wrong when planning my travel for the year. This business employs 3 full-timers, me, my son, and a video editor. My wife spends a good 35 hours a week on the travel planning. Let's talk frequent flyer points. It comes up a lot. Yes, I accrue plenty, not only from flights, but also from credit card use. My primary membership is Qantas, which is a One World airline, and then Singapore Airlines, which is Star Alliance. And when I fly the likes of American, Cathay and Qatar, I input my Qantas number, and for the likes of Air Canada, ANA, Austrian and Thai, I put in my Singapore Airlines number. Now last year I'd accrued enough points on my KrisFlyer account that I was able to book that suites cabin from London to Singapore. Have a look at the cash price for that fare. 15,000 Aussie, about 10,000 US. But I hold way more Qantas points, and I will typically use them for first-class flights from Perth to LAX. Now those flights are worth 18,000 Aussie, about 12,000 US. I can't tell you what I spend on airfares per year, but it's a lot of money. So I will use some very clever ways to save money. For example, round world fares, fantastic. And sometimes I'll use leg 1 and 2 to go somewhere, and say leg 3 and 4 of another ticket to come back. Then I'll pick up leg 3 and 4 of the first ticket and perhaps team that up with legs 5 and 6 of another ticket. But you'll have to be organised and have to wait until the last flight to book those fares, as they don't allow you to book them more than 330 days out. Let's go to the start of the year. I've got a Perth-Melbourne flight. I use points for that. Then I've got a Melbourne-Shanghai flight with Cathay via Hong Kong. Then a Beijing-Tokyo flight. And then a Nagoya back to Perth flight via Hong Kong. Now the total there, 11,700 Aussie. That's about 8,000 US. And that's for 26 hours in the air. That averages around 300 US an hour. And that's pretty darn good value. But I need to go from Shanghai to Chongqing. And I mostly go to Google Flights first. I see which flights look all right. These two are okay, take off around the same time, both in business. But look at this, one is a quarter of the price of the other. And then the cheaper one is on a lie-flat bed, not a sit-up. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And it is too good to be true. Because when you delve deeper, although both of the airlines look okay, but to get the cheap price, you need to book through trip.com. I'd never heard of them, so I did some reviews. And while there are a couple of okay ones, there are plenty of shockers. And with a price difference that great, that rings warning bells, so I won't be booking that. Another example is Perth-Bahrain return. Google Flights comes up with around 12,500 for a quick flight, or you can go cheaper, but there are very long delays, having to stay extra days, a whole lot of inconvenience. But I ended up buying two separate fares, one Perth to Singapore return and one Singapore to Bahrain return, and I saved $2,000. But there is one drawback of that. I have to clear customs and immigration in Singapore and then re-check in straight away. But I've got a long enough layover both ways that I ought to be fine. I'll take a few economy flights each year, and if it's a 3-3 plane or a 3-4-3 plane, and there's two of us travelling, I'll always book a window and an aisle on the window side, such that if somebody comes and takes that middle seat, which is a shocker, I'll then move my son next to me or move me next to my son, and they can take the spare seat. And nobody ever says, no, I want to sit in the middle seat. And finally on flights, private, yeah, I've done a few in my time and they are fantastic. It's best if you can get a few people to share the cost together. It's certainly going to be more expensive than the equivalent business class flight, but sometimes there are, say, no night flights after a race, and I would need to travel that night, so booking private not only gets me there earlier, I can save a night's accommodation in the city that I was departing from. What about hotels? Last year there were 31, 5 Airbnbs and even one cruise ship. The smallest room I stay in is the Media Hotel in Japan. It is crazy small, but very convenient, and it's pretty good value. What am I looking for in a hotel? Ideally close to the track. I only get a few hours of free time each day, and I certainly don't want to be spending an hour plus in the morning and an hour plus in the evening on the road. The closest hotel to any track is the Hilton at Silverstone. I've never stayed there. It's crazy money, but it's only a couple of 100 metres walk to the paddock. Then there are hotels like the Marriott and the Hilton in Baku, which is a very short walk, and even the Ritz-Carlton in Singapore. For race weekends, I'll book a 5-night stay, coming in on the Wednesday, out on the Monday. Then I'll sort out the 2 extra days later. And those 2 extra days are always much cheaper than the race days. The cheapest place for accommodation? I've got a video coming up about that, and the prices range from $12 a night to $375 a night. And that is the cheapest room in every one of those cities. The most expensive room? Oh, look, the sky's the limit. If you go to something like the Shangri-La here in Jeddah, you're paying more than 10,000 Aussie a night, which is about 6,500 US a night. And then, of course, if you want to stay on board a boat or a ship in Monaco, it's going to be way more than that. But the cheapest that I pay per year probably works out at about 150 US a night. And the most expensive? About 1,200 US. When I book hotels, I'll use hotels.com because I get a free night for every 10 that I book. But on some occasions, it is cheaper if I go direct to a hotel, and I'll always price match them on hotels.com with the direct booking. When do I book these hotels? Well, as early as I can. For something like De La Source, which is just 250 metres from Turn 1 in Spa, I booked that the moment I leave the previous year, and I have to pay for it then, and that is my most expensive hotel. But a lot of the hotels I stay at, like De La Source and Palazzo Tangara, you can't just ring up and book a room. They never place those rooms into the general market. I've managed to get them because I have a relationship with them. Know that some of the great hotels that we do stay at are hard to get. Let's talk about getting around on land. I'm an Avis preferred customer. I'll typically use them. I avoid the smaller car rental agencies. I hate queuing. I hate having to give my information to, say, rentalcars.com. And then when I go to pick up a car, not only do I wait forever, but I have to stand around while they re-input that information into their system. In the US too, where you've got to take a bus to a different different place to pick up a car. Don't have time for that. So I'll typically get a taxi to my hotel and then grab the car from a city office. Sometimes I save a day's rental on that. Drivers, yeah, I have a driver in Perth that I use all the time to pick me up and take me to the airport. In Mexico City, I have a driver, and in Sao Paulo, it's far better. They can use my media pass to park inside the media car park. I just walk out there, get in the car, and I'm off. Well, in China, my driver can't get anywhere near the track unless he has a parking pass, so I leave that on his car for the 4 days of the event. But in some places, I ask my hotels to arrange the transfers. The charge goes straight on the bill, and I don't get scammed like I do in places like China and Azerbaijan. And in other places, yeah, I'll use things like Uber, Grab, Didi. I get a lot of questions saying, how do I carry my photo gear? Well, I use a think tank camera bag. Most of it goes with me inside the cabin. Occasionally there'll be a smaller aircraft where I can't fit that bag in an overhead locker, in which case I carry a smaller bag which I can decant a lot of my stuff into, and then put that in the locker with my 3 main cameras and say 4 lenses in that soft bag. At races, we leave our gear at the track. There are lockers in each of the media centres, and all my gear travels with AirTags. Insurance, big consideration. Yes, I have 2 different policies, and I won't take nice watches to places like Brazil or Mexico. But in the Middle East, you're supremely safe. I'm lucky enough to get 2 passports. These are concurrent. Sometimes I'll have to send a passport off to get a visa, and I'm still travelling, so I can travel on that one and lose that for a couple of weeks. Visas, yes, they're an issue, but the FIA assists us in letting us know what we require. Countries like Azerbaijan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, China, we all need visas. I also have an APEC card, ABTC, and that allows me to get into a number of countries without queuing for hours. Travelling with my camera kit, I take a carnet. What is a carnet? It's a document I show to customs in different countries for them to inspect my gear going in and going out, making sure I don't leave anything in those countries. Oh, and I did get caught last year once going into Mexico, where I was told that, no, you can only take 2 cameras in, and I had to pay what I thought was an exorbitant fee, well, it was a tax really, to take that camera in and export it again. Communications is important. I travel with 2 phones, this one and another one as a spare in case that one gets nicked. And then looking at data, I'll typically use Holofly because I don't have to go and queue up somewhere to get a SIM. It's a virtual SIM. And when I book flights, I look for things like Qatar's Starlink, which is available on a lot of their long-haul flights because I can get high-speed internet in flight. And it's free. Rest assured, I'm excited about getting back to the sport for testing in early February, and I'll be sharing all of my stories and my pictures with you via my 4 main social media platforms. Now, before you go, could you please hit that subscribe button if you are unsubscribed, and at the very least, could you please like this video? And at kimillman.com, you'll find all of my photo books. In closing, Benny and I say thanks for watching, and stay passionate.